I want to thank everybody for coming. I'm Cindy Scott. I'm the library director, and I've actually remembered to wear my name tag today so you can identify me. We are thrilled to have all of you here. We are going to be doing tours of the building. I don't know if some of you have already started to go on tours, but certainly after this, if you're interested in going on a tour, I'll take you on a tour of the library. Also, we've got members of the foundation out front to talk to, members of the Friends of the Library. Both organizations are supporting the library in our effort to do this expansion project and are vital to the success of this project, as are all of you and your support or interest in the project. We are looking for ideas as well, so as we work through, after Ron does his presentation, he'll be asking for questions and suggestions. We have been working on a potential expansion project since about 2004, and we wanted to do a very methodical and thoughtful process, and I feel that that is what we've done, and we've ended up in a place that we're all pretty excited about. About the time I was hired, which was in 2002, we had about 56,000 people through the door. Now we have about 90,000 people through the door. It's the same building. And essentially, it's the same staff with just a little bit of part-time hour adjustments. So we are really maximizing everything that we have, and we'll continue to do that, but we would like to be able to increase some of the services that we have. So this is part of what we're working on. We've been working with Ron Lamarre of Lavallee-Brensinger since early summer. We first heard about Ron, Candy Thayer, one of the trustees, and I went to a trustees association meeting, and Ron was doing a program on the 21st century library. And I think that's part of his vision, is what do you need for a 21st century library, and that was part of what we were interested in. We did interview a number of, we did a RFQ, and we did a number of interviews as well, but we did ultimately end up picking Lavallee-Brensinger and Ron Lamarre. And our construction company, we've also selected the construction firm we're going to work with, Frank LeMay at Milestone. And they're both New Hampshire companies. And the engineer we're using, also Underwood Engineers, is also a New Hampshire firm. And Dave Ford and Rob Hausman have both been very active this summer, until Rob, of course, left, to help us with this whole project. So I'm going to turn this over to Rob now and let him tell you about what we've been working on for the past number of months.
So one of the things that we did is evaluated all of the work that took place between 2004 and when we were asked to join the party this past summer. And this is obviously your existing library, and we started there and we talked about the obstacles, and we talked about what the vision really was for Wolfeboro, and how that had played into the work and the process and the progress that had been made from 2004 until we started. And so the first thing, this is a site plan. So the site plan, what you see there is that red dashed line. That's your existing footprint right now. And so part of the process that we started with was, let's talk about the size of the library, and let's talk about the concept from previous years, which was putting an addition on both sides, the front and back of the library. And as we evaluated that, we also understood that there was a need for much better parking, much more parking. In addition to that, right out front, if you go over towards the children's room and the main entrance library, everybody sort of parks right there. So they come in, they park, they do three-point turns. It was interesting, one morning we got to see all this in action. And so one question was, we really have to consider the site. And so with that, we said, has there been any consideration or thought about building the entire addition up front? We had looked at the Wolfeboro ordinances and the Wolfeboro vision. You've got design guidelines and so forth, and it talks about pulling the building towards the street. And I know that folks, when you drive up and down the street, especially if you're heading in the westerly direction, you sort of got to slow down for where that entrance is. And so we talked about, why don't we consider and explore the idea of building it towards the street, one construction site, not two, because we won't do anything to the back of the building. That allows us to put even more parking in the back of the building, while at the same time addressing the access. So one of the things we considered was making this a one-way. As you come in the one-way, you can then go to your two-way parking areas, and then a one-way out. So two ways coming in, separates the traffic. Now if you stop, it's like being in the middle of the city. The person behind you really can't go. The thing is, it gives you a lot more preferred parking up front, because, you know, obviously people want to stop there, right? Because that's what they're doing now. So let's give them the opportunity to do exactly that. They pull into the library, they come around, and then they can actually park right out in front of that entrance. The other thing we wanted to consider is the fact that many of the parking is going to be back here, we're going to have some up here, so really you end up with two entrances. And right now everybody sneaks in the fire exit, or the little vestibule back here. And so we started talking about, well, what if we built a new entrance back here and redid the entrance up here, and this became like a porch. And that's what you see here. But a winterized porch, so that has lots of windows, you can sit in there, and basically you can enter from both directions. You can enter in the back, you can enter here, and it all gets you to that main, where you see the scarecrow, in the main entrance of the building this morning. So that's what we talked about with the site. Dave Ford has been very involved. Underwood Engineering has been working very closely with Dave Ford. We've come out and we've done some geotechnical explorations, which means they dug a few holes to see what the soil is like, to confirm, I think, what Dave Ford already knew. But more importantly, they came up with a way to actually fix it. And so when we're done, the idea is that you will have a new parking lot that doesn't have some of the drainage issues that take place right now.
Is there a drop-off area?
There is, okay, book drops. So as you pull in here, we could consider that, sort of having a pull-off. You know, we can look into that. One thing is to just, I mean, if you were to stop and let somebody off and then continue, almost like in a school, you know, where you sort of have the drop-off, I mean, that would certainly work. But thanks for pointing that out, because one of the things we have is a book drop-off now outside. And so as you come into the library, you'll drive up and around, and that's a one-way, and it's on the driver's side, so hopefully you won't have to get out of the car. So what all that meant in terms of the building itself was, when we started, we heard that there was some talk about possibly moving the library over to the hospital during the time of construction. And so obviously there are costs that go along with that. Our experience is it's not just like taking the books that you want to serve during that time over to a space. I'm sure your local inspectors and fire department would want it not to be operating as a hospital, but actually an assembly space. So there's all sorts of codes and things that would get involved. So you'd be probably spending a little bit of money over in that area to make that work. So part of our concept is all of this in white is new. All of the gray is your existing area. This is the area right here where you have that big window. This is the area where the big window is in the front. So we leave all that in place, we put up some plywood, and we build this entire addition while the library is being serviced. You're going to have one means of egress out the back of the library, and we're going to cut in one of your existing walls. We're going to punch some new windows, and when we do that, we're going to make a doorway for the time being. And so you'll have two ways of egress out of the library, and all of this will be constructed at once. What that means is all of your gray area is going to be able to be renovated after this is complete, and you move into this area, and instead of going to the hospital and have a temporary library set up, you're going to have one big grand open space to do a temporary setup while the building's getting renovated. So what that means is you don't have to change your mailing address for a year. You don't have to do a lot of those things that would typically take place, and we believe it's going to save some costs. So with that, how does that break down? The adult library, if you will, because we also, in assessing your library, we noticed there's not a lot of acoustic separation between the children's room in the adult room. So the idea here is, what can we do for a new addition? And so everything you see there in the blue is actually 6,000 square feet. So somehow, not quite sure, but we've added 1,000 square feet to the design previously without adding any cost. And the reason for that, we believe, is because of the 2 construction sites, the phasing and so forth. So some of the program that had to be cut in the previous design is now back in, because that was on your priority list and they had previously cut that out, so we got it back in. So everything you see there in the blue is 6,000 square feet. And how that breaks down is everything you see there in orange is the staff. So the staff is all along that edge of the building, which allows all of this edge of the building, which is the northeast, the southeast, and the eastern side of the building, to be where the public is. And the reason for that is daylighting, solar orientation. It's going to be nice and bright in the building. It also allows the staff to work together while serving this end of the building as well as serving this end of the building. So it sort of spreads them out across the back of the building. Next thing we have is the adult library. All of that area that you see in blue is going to be everything from teen programs to young adults. All of your adult programming takes place, all of your computer, your e-commons. But we also have in there that you don't have in there today are 2 small meeting rooms. What we have is a genealogy room. There's more storage. And what you see here, in this room here, this is where your IT tech is. So as you come in with all of your devices and you need to download something, upload something, have an issue that needs to get, you can get a help desk. So that's kind of like a help desk right there, right across from the e-commons. Also the bookshelves. There was a great desire not to have the big tall bookshelves, but to lower them down for a couple reasons. Anybody who's challenged the way I am, you can't reach. But also because you have line of sight. And so the staff can see everybody, everybody else can see everybody else, and the daylighting can come in over the shelves. So all of those shelves, except the ones up at the front of the building, are going to be low, like you see in the children's area. The yellow is now a fully enclosed with glass wall children's room. So you can monitor the children's room, you can see all your kids. You can come in, drop the kids and grandchildren off, tell them to go have a blast. You can be in the adult library, you can see everything taking place in there, but you don't have to listen to it. And vice versa, lots of kids, you know, they yell sometimes, like I'm doing, because, you know, they want to be heard over the rustle of everybody else. So what you see here is what we call a building within a building. This is your community spaces. So this would be your meeting room. The meeting room that we're standing in right now would move to here. You would have a little kitchenette to serve it. There would be restrooms. Unlike some public libraries that have a men's room with several fixtures and a women's room with several fixtures, the thought here is we're going to provide 5 individual restrooms, and they're all unisex. This porch here, this is where the entrance is off the back parking lot. This is the entrance across from the preferred parking out front. This is the porch where you can hang out. There's a nice big window, which is your existing window that would be replaced. That looks into the meeting room. We've got some chairs. And then there's a conference room at the end. So at night, on weekends, when the library's closed, the library would lock that door and lock this door. This can be open to the community. It'll have its own HVAC system, its own lighting system. So when it's open to the community, the rest of the library is shut off. You're not wasting any energy. You don't have to turn the whole building on in order to have a meeting. At the same time, you don't have to turn on this room if in fact you just have a small meeting. So if the selectmen wanted to get together and have a meeting here, they could. They don't have to meet in this big room. Or vice versa, if you had a large group and a small group who both wanted it at the same time, you'd have the opportunity to do that. So that's what we talked about in terms of how that would work as a real community building. And this is just this is a concept plan. So maybe I should say that too. What we've done in a short amount of time is take a look at all this and put together a plan that everybody felt worked for Wolfeboro and for what the vision was. But this is a concept design. So once the community votes in favor of this project, we're actually gonna sit down and roll up our sleeves and detail this. And we're gonna talk about furniture, we're gonna talk about, you know, what do we have in this space, what do we have in that space? Does this wall move a few feet, does it back off a few feet? And then we're gonna detail those plans, and then the builder would build those plans. So this is by no stretch of the imagination done. What the trustees wanted to do today was sort of let everybody in on what we've been doing. There's been a lot of participation and comments to date, but this was an opportunity to take a weekend instead of the Thursday mornings when we were meeting, but take a weekend to get as many folks here as we possibly could. To tell you two things, here's what we are, and we've got a lot more work to do, and we'd love to have you involved. Our philosophy has always been the more folks to get involved, the better the project's gonna be.
This has been a production of Wolfeboro Community TV, bringing your community to view.